Hey, ladies and listeners, I'm Dee Dee. This is Pink Chill Divest, your source for common sense. I'm coming to you as a mental health professional. I'm a certified mental health peer-to-peer specialist. I got certified way back in 2013 by San Francisco State. Some of you know me from Black Women with Other Brothers. I had this public social media experiment about swirling. It was 7 years specifically. And before that, some of you know me here in San Francisco from DDTV, a multiple award-winning TV show I did for 20 years. And some of you know me as San Francisco Dam. This is now my third year of doing a daily podcast. Okay, enough about me. I need you to stop blaming your mother, Black ladies. I need you to stop blaming your mother. This oppressive Olympics, the victim status is out of control. Today, I was reading some things. It made me tear up, and I might tear up while I am talking to you. And if I do, I'm not going to edit that out because I embrace my vulnerability and I have empathy for myself. Some of you are loving this victim status. You love talking about how your mother didn't do this, dissing your mama, dissing your grandmother, dissing all the women who helped raise you, openly being unloyal on public social media. Do you understand how serious that is and what you are doing, being unloyal? Now, it is true that some of you have been abused, and let me tell you a little bit about my backstory. I am one of 7 children, and I'm being peer-to-peer with you because I get it. I am one of 7 children. My parents divorced. My father was abusive to my mom. We were abandoned. We had to get on welfare. It was It was very intense. I can say that I am a childhood abuse survivor. I called my mother out, rest in paradise, Evangelist Helen, and just talking about this is emotional for me, but I have to do it because it's a process. I survived childhood abuse. My mother would whip us with branches from the trees and electric cords or shoes. I don't remember getting slapped on the face, but she had a very short temper, and when she drank, I think she was depressed after my father abandoned the family. After the divorce, he paid no child support. Long story short, she sort of took it out on the kids. The first time I got cursed out was by my mother. Okay, she would curse us out and then black out and say she didn't remember. She was very heavy-handed with the discipline. I survived that, and I want you to understand, it's about empathy. All right, when I was in my early 20s, I am right now a middle-aged woman. I'm that child-free bohemian auntie you've always heard about, and you say you want to hear from cool Black women who know what's going on. Well, that's me. When I was in my 20s, I think I hated my mother. It was 2 or 3 years where all the stories from my childhood were coming back up like a waterfall. I remembered everything. My mother used to make me pay rent. We were living on welfare. I'm working after school jobs. She made me pay rent, y'all. My mother never gave us a key to the house, and this is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so we would be standing out in the snow waiting for her to come back home to let us in after school. Are you listening to me? Are you listening? So when I was in my early 20s, as some of you ladies listening, I was so upset at my mother. I think I hated her. I really think I hated her. However, when I was 19 years old, I had the wherewithal to go to therapy. Okay, and back then, that's when Black people were saying, oh, you think you a white girl. You think you a white girl. I went to therapy because I knew how I was socialized was not healthy or normal. I went to therapy at 19 without social media hand-holding me, without TikTok giving me info, without YouTube, without a blog. I did that on my own. Are you listening? Keep listening. So, of course, that led me on a path of enlightenment, and I divested from where I was raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, moving out to San Francisco, California, and I got over that phase of hating my mother. I kept talking to my therapist, and we had a session once, and I was describing the child abuse, so I was a child abuse victim. She used to whip us, she used to curse us out, then she blacked out when she was drunk. We go to school dirty, we go to school hungry. Yep, I went to school dirty and I went to school hungry. Are you listening to my emotion? It's okay that I'm emotional about this. And my therapist said, she gave me empathy. That's terrible. Sorry to hear it. Now imagine how your mother must have been raised to do that. Imagine how your mother must have been raised. Imagine how your mother must have been raised. Imagine that. Can you do that? Can you have empathy for your mother? Can you walk in your mother's shoes for 1 minute and stop screaming and crying and trying to get everybody to feel sorry for you when you are being supremely unloyal to the person who chose to raise you? Do you know your mother could have given you up for adoption? And if you are a black girl, which most of you are, and you have been raised without your father didn't want to raise you. Your father didn't want to raise you. My father didn't want to raise us. My mother, one time she was drunk and she confessed, she said, after the divorce, the judge, they were, talking to the judge, and the judge says, lady, you've got 7 kids. This is going to be impossible. You need to at least put some of these kids up for adoption, put them in foster care. And my mother said, no, I'm keeping my kids together. Now, she had some missteps, but she at least raised us. Are you following me? Your mother raised you. Most likely your father did not, and most likely your mother did not stop your father from raising you. So I started to have empathy, not only for her, but for myself. I started treating myself very tenderly. And ladies, I'm an artist out here in San Francisco. I created a platform where I was complaining about my father. I wouldn't have dared gone on stage dissing my mother. That's why I take it personally to read all these, my mama did this, my mama did this. Very vulgar ladies cursing. And by the way, put a pin in this. Some of you who are hooping and hollering about how your mother abused you, your mother didn't teach you how to date, your aunties didn't teach you how to date, your grandmother didn't teach you how to date. You chose to have children that a lot of you can't afford. So how do you think you're going to treat your kids when you cannot even have empathy for the women who raised you, can't have compassion for what they probably went through, so you could close this loop and be healthy? It's all about mental health. If you have listened this far, I'd like you to tell me, when did you start therapy? Or when will you start therapy? I refuse to hear excuses. I don't want to hear that you have anxiety, you can't find a therapist. You don't have anxiety. It's not stopping you from smoking weed. Anxiety is not stopping you from overeating to 300 pounds. Anxiety is not stopping you from having unsafe sex with men and having out of wedlock kids. I don't want to hear any excuses why you're not getting into therapy. I am not going to hear that. So in short, and to close this, stop dissing your mother, your auntie, your grandmother, the women who raised you on social media. It's embarrassing, and it takes away your own personal responsibility to start healing yourself. Hey, I appreciate you guys listening. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Pink Chill Divest. I'm Dee Dee.